Ever stand out on a summer night, mesmerized as a firework paints the sky with color?
Mm.
I mean, it's almost magical, right?
Yeah.
But have you ever thought about, like, the history behind these dazzling displays? We're going to do that tonight. Dive deep into the world of fireworks.
And you might be surprised to learn that it's not all just about celebrations and sparklers. Fireworks have a long and sometimes unexpected history, intertwined with power, religion, and even a touch of accidental discovery.
Okay, so let's rewind way back, like to 1379 in Vicenza, Italy. Picture this: a stage, a mystery play, and suddenly a model dove zooms across, leaving a trail of sparks.
A firework.
Yep, an early one, powered by some sort of rocket.
Aha.
It's the first recorded firework display in Europe, and get this, it was part of a religious play.
Wow. That's fascinating. Using fireworks to add this visual spectacle to a religious story. It shows how from the very beginning they were meant to evoke a sense of wonder and awe. But it took another 100 years for fireworks to really make a splash in England.
Right. And that brings us to the coronation of Elizabeth of York in 1487. Now, this wasn't just any coronation. It marked the end of the Wars of the Roses. Imagine England, exhausted from decades of brutal conflict, finally at peace.
And what better way to signal a new era than with a grand symbolic display of fireworks?
Exactly. And they went all out, a procession of barges on the Thames, and leading the way, a massive fire-breathing dragon, all powered by fireworks.
Wow. Can you imagine witnessing that? A fire-breathing dragon on the Thames. It must have been absolutely breathtaking. And it really set the stage for two key things. First, the Thames became the place for grand firework displays. And second, dragons, well, they became this recurring motif in English fireworks.
It's like something straight out of a fantasy novel.
Yeah.
And just a few decades later, in 1520, we see this fascination with fire-breathing creatures again.
Ah, you're talking about the Field of Cloth of Gold.
Exactly, that legendary meeting between Henry VIII of England and Francis the France of France. What a story.
It was an incredible display of wealth and power, with a 7-meter-long salamander, essentially a dragon, soaring through the air.
Powered by what? Some kind of elaborate mechanism?
Yes, a complex, kite-like contraption. And this wasn't just for show. It was a deliberate projection of power and prestige meant to intimidate and amaze.
So these early fireworks, they weren't just pretty lights. They were tools of diplomacy, of power, carefully crafted to send a message.
Precisely, and we see this again and again in the Tudor era. Think of Anne Boleyn's coronation or Elizabeth I. Both featured prominent firework displays. It was all about spectacle and legitimizing their right to rule.
It's like a modern-day inauguration, but with way more explosions.
You could say that. But we shouldn't forget the other characters who added to the drama. The Green Man, for example, a figure covered in leaves wielding these fire-emitting clubs.
Wait, the Green Man. What was their role in all of this?
Well, imagine them running around between firework launches, keeping the crowd engaged, part crowd control, part entertainment, adding a touch of wildness to the spectacle.
I love those little details that bring history to life. But, there's this common misconception that fireworks were a purely military invention. Is there any truth to that?
Not really. The real story is way more about chance than conquest. Imagine ancient China. Someone tosses bamboo into a fire and boom, it explodes. Bamboo, being hollow, bursts when heated. That simple accident led to firecrackers and eventually to the incredible fireworks we know today.
So from exploding bamboo to fire-breathing dragons, that's quite a journey. But speaking of elaborate displays, we know that Queen Elizabeth III even had a fire master. What did that entail?
Think of the fire master as like a pyrotechnic maestro, the director of all royal firework displays. Often someone with a military background, which shows that link between fireworks and warfare, even in peacetime.
So a position of power and prestige. It shows just how important these displays were becoming. But of course, early fireworks weren't without their risks.
Definitely not. In fact, there was a rather tragic incident at Warwick Castle in 1572. Ambrose Dudley, the Earl of Warwick, hosted a huge firework display, and, well, things went terribly wrong.
What happened?
A stray firework sparked a fire that ended up destroying several houses, and, tragically, 2 people lost their lives. A stark reminder that these early displays were unpredictable and, frankly, quite dangerous.
A far cry from the safety measures we have today.
Absolutely, and yet just a few years later, in 1575, Robert Dudley, the Earl of Leicester, hosted this lavish display for Queen Elizabeth I at Kenilworth Castle. It was massive, with Italian pyrotechnic experts, even a mock siege, and you guessed it, another fire-breathing dragon.
So they clearly weren't deterred by the earlier accident.
Not at all. The fascination with fireworks was just too strong. Plus, there was this sense of competition with continental Europe, this desire to push the boundaries of what was possible.
It seems like those early firework masters were really walking a tightrope between spectacle and disaster. It's amazing to think about how firework production itself evolved over time. I mean, it wasn't always these grand royal events, right? Eventually, ordinary people started getting in on the
Oh,
action.
yeah, absolutely. In the early days, you'd have people actually making their own fireworks at home. Can you imagine that?
Like DIY fireworks in the backyard.
Pretty much. Hard to believe something so, well, dangerous was once a casual DIY project. But, as with anything that catches on, it eventually gets more organized.
Right, so that's where we start to see those cottage industries popping up and then ultimately full-blown commercial firework production.
Exactly. And, with commercialization, unfortunately, new dangers emerged. Take John Brock, for example, a well-known firework maker. Tragically, he and his daughter were killed in a factory explosion in 1720.
That's a harsh reminder of the risks involved, even as production became more, sophisticated. And it wasn't just isolated incidents, right? There was that explosion in London in 1715. A gunpowder shop blew up. 50 people died.
Devastating. And these tragedies really highlighted the need for better regulation, for safer production methods. Thankfully, some people in the industry stepped up. Charles Brock, another member of that same firework family, he really pushed for some major safety improvements.
Interesting. Given his family's own history with firework accidents, it's almost like he felt a personal responsibility.
Maybe so. His dispersal system was revolutionary. Instead of having all the production in one big building, he advocated for separate sheds so if an explosion happened, it wouldn't trigger a chain reaction.
Smart thinking. Spreading out the risk. It's fascinating how these innovations were driven by, sadly, tragedy and necessity. But it wasn't just individual ingenuity that shaped the industry. Big events like the Great Fire of London in 1666, it wasn't caused by fireworks, but it definitely had a lasting impact, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. After that fire, there was a total ban on firework production within the city limits. Understandable, given the scale of the destruction.
But didn't that ban, by driving production underground, didn't it actually make things more dangerous?
You're right. Pushing anything into the shadows removes regulations and oversight. It's a classic example of a well-intentioned law backfiring. And we know it didn't stop production entirely. In 1825, they had to reassert the ban. Clearly, the demand for fireworks and the potential for profit outweighed the risks for some.
It makes you wonder about the individuals who are drawn to this kind of work. We know about the Brocks, this whole family dynasty of firework makers, but there were others, right?
Oh, definitely. One really interesting group were the Huguenot silk weavers. They fled religious persecution in France in 1685, and many of them, to make ends meet in England, turned to firework making.
Wow, that's fascinating. Do you think their skills in silk weaving, the precision, the attention to detail, maybe that influenced their approach to firework design?
It's possible, isn't it? That expertise in working with delicate materials, creating intricate patterns, it could have definitely translated to those elaborate firework displays. It's really a testament to their resilience and adaptability.
It's amazing how these seemingly unrelated events, from religious persecution to silk weaving, they all intertwine in the story of fireworks. But let's zoom out a bit. We've mainly focused on England, but fireworks were capturing imaginations all across Europe, right?
Oh, absolutely. We can't forget about those grand spectacles commissioned by the likes of Louis XIV in France or Tsar Peter the Great in Russia. Massive displays of wealth and power designed to, awe foreign dignitaries and showcase their nation's strength.
So there was a sense of international competition, each ruler trying to outdo the other with their firework displays.
Oh, for sure. It was all about one-upmanship. Interestingly, while England was initially lagging behind, often relying on, foreign experts, they did eventually catch up.
Right, and that's where Charles Brock comes in again.
Exactly. The same guy who was a champion for safety also helped elevate English fireworks to a world-class level. His work at the Crystal Palace in the 19th century was legendary.
Blending technical innovation with artistic vision. But it makes you wonder, why were countries like Italy and Germany initially so dominant in firework artistry? Was it just a matter of, having more skilled artisans?
Well, that's part of it, but I think the political landscape played a role too. Those countries, especially in the earlier centuries, were made up of all these smaller states, competing ruling families. That intense competition, maybe it fueled innovation in fireworks, each court wanting to create the most impressive, the most unique display.
So the drive to outshine their rivals might have inadvertently pushed the boundaries of firework technology and artistry.
Precisely. It's a reminder that progress often comes from unexpected places. We think of fireworks as purely celebratory, but their history is full of ambition, competition, even a bit of one-upmanship.
What a great point. From those accidental discoveries in ancient China to these elaborate displays of power and artistry across Europe, it's clear that the story of fireworks is anything but straightforward.
It's a story of innovation and danger, of spectacle and symbolism, and ultimately a testament to that enduring human fascination with fire, light, and, the power to transform the night sky.
It's incredible, isn't it? How something is, I don't know, fleeting as a firework can have such a deep and complex history. We've gone from those early fire-breathing dragons to the Huguenot silk weavers, even factory explosions and safety innovations. It's quite a story.
And what's really striking is even as the technology and artistry of fireworks evolved, the reasons behind their use, those stayed pretty consistent.
In a way, it's like they capture, well, I don't know, like a universal human experience.
I think you're right. Whether it was a Tudor monarch trying to assert their authority or a village celebrating a saint's day, fireworks have always allowed people to express, well, something bigger than themselves.
It's like they're a canvas for our collective emotions. Awe, joy, fear, even like a bit of rebelliousness, like with those bonfire night celebrations.
Exactly. It's that duality. They can
Yeah.
symbolize unity and celebration, but they can also be, well, tools of intimidation, even destruction. Like, think about how they were used in warfare.
Right. Not just to signal, but to disorient and frighten the enemy.
Precisely. I think it's important to remember that darker side, not to romanticize them too much.
Absolutely. But at the same time, we can't deny the artistry, the ingenuity, the sheer wonder that fireworks represent.
They are, after all, products of human creativity, pushing the boundaries of what's possible, reaching for, I don't know, something extraordinary.
Like reaching for the stars, literally.
Yeah.
Creating something, yes, fleeting, but absolutely spectacular. Leaving a mark, however temporary, on the night sky. It's a powerful image, really.
It is. It speaks to that human desire to create beauty, to find moments of wonder, even amidst challenges and uncertainty.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think what stays with me is not just the spectacle of fireworks, but the story behind them, the human story, the innovation, the artistry, even the tragedies, all woven together.
I couldn't agree more. And I hope our listeners, the next time they see a firework display, they'll remember that history. See beyond the flash and the bang and appreciate the centuries of human endeavor that led to that moment.
And if you've enjoyed this explosive journey with us, be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more fascinating explorations. We have so many more stories to uncover, so until next time.